Waiting for the train. All right. Hey guys, how's it going? Pawinning here. Welcome back to the channel. It's awesome to have you guys here for another video. So in today's video, I'm so excited, and you guys can't tell from the title of this video, I bought another E36. Frankly, I think I overpaid just a little too much, but I'll let you guys comment below and tell me what you think, because I think in the current market of E36 M3s, to be specific, I think I got a pretty good deal. To be completely honest, I ended up paying $9 grand for this BMW M3. It's a 1997 BMW M3. It has 123,000 miles on the clock. And I want to say overall, the exterior condition of this car is probably more of like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. And the interior is probably about, to be completely honest, more like a 5, 6 out of 10 if I were to be really critical about it. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you guys and tell you that this car was an amazing buy. I think, frankly, I overpaid for it just a little bit, but I think you guys can understand the reason why I ended up purchasing this car, given its current state. Now, my quick opinions on the E36 market, frankly, I think the prices of these M3s, the E36 M3 to be specific, are going up really fast. Now, originally this car was actually listed on Facebook in November 2020. Today is actually towards the end of March now, but in November 2020, this actual car on Facebook Marketplace was listed for $13,500. I think the reason why I ended up getting it for the deal that I got it at $9 grand was because this car was taking up space in a shop that was being kind of moved out of, so the car needed to go, and ended up getting the car at a much cheaper price than originally asked for. So I am stoked about that. So overall, I am very happy with the car that I got. Car exterior wise, I apologize it's dirty. I actually purposely didn't really wash it inside and out. Well, I decontaminated the inside because it was kind of gross when I first got it. But anyways, didn't really do much to the exterior, just to kind of show you guys really what I got for what I paid for. And underneath all this dirt and grime, I found that it looks like the car has been repainted. And the reason why I think that is because if you look right into the weather stripping, you can see that some of the paint is just peeling and exposing the primer, which was probably painted over the original color. So aside from that, the car, I think, with a little bit of buffing, should come out really clean. So I'm excited to see how the detailing goes, to see how this car cleans up. Now, if you guys see that these taillights and these wheels are familiar, you're right, because these taillights actually came from Gertrude, my boosted 325i convertible. And the reason why I swapped these over was because the old taillights weren't really functioning the exact way I wanted it to for inspection. And I did the same thing with the wheels too. I just swapped the wheels over because the tires that came with the car were completely bald. The wheels were nice. They were Apex wheels, which I'm really looking forward to slap on a new set of summer tires onto. Aside from that, that's really the only thing that didn't really come with the car, just the taillights and the wheels. Everything else that you're seeing is pretty much what I got with this car. You guys notice here, it came with a stud conversion kit. These lug nuts are literally showing their age, or I think they might have been painted once or twice over. That being said, the actual stud conversion kit is actually pretty nice. It was nice to be able to just toss the wheel on instead of worrying about how much to rotate the wheel and then also then position it to insert a lug nut. It's just on, tighten them down, and then torque them down to spec. All right, so now I'm sitting right next to the car, and I'm sitting right next to one of the jack points, and I want to show you guys exactly why I ended up buying this car, especially being in New England and such. And let me just show you these jack points underneath here. All right, look at that bad boy. Look how intact this jack point is. Like, no crumbling sheet metal. And what's kind of exposed here is just kind of the old factory undercoating flaking off. As you guys know, these front jack points, and maybe in the rear too, are literally the most common things that rot in these cars, or one of the most common things. And this specific front right jack point is probably the worst one out of the 4. And that's kind of why I'm showing it to you guys first, because let me show you guys the others. All right, it's going under the front left jack point. Let's see how it looks under here. All right, you can see there's even less rust on this front driver's side jack point here. Again, you got some flaking off of the factory undercoating. And if you guys kind of take a look underneath the rest of the car, you can really see that there's really no rust underneath this car at all, on the chassis for the matter. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I bought this car. Yeah, you guys can take a look under the rear driver's side jack point. There's even less rust under this one. All right, final jack point, rear passenger side. Look at that. I have never seen an E36 in New England that has cleaner jack points than this. All right, guys, so hopefully you guys can understand the reason why I really was attracted to this car in terms of how clean the chassis was. because all you guys know how rotted out the other two E36s that I've owned, and even Gertrude has a decent amount of rust on those same jack points I just showed you. I don't really know how to handle rust in these cars, and that's kind of the reason why I'm tired of buying cheap E36s here in New England, because what you get with these cars is not much in terms of a clean chassis. It's either like a low mileage engine or a really clean interior. You're not really going to find a clean chassis E36, at least for a really decent price nowadays, in my opinion. Pop the hood now so you guys can start to see other goodies that this car came with. All right, so here's the engine bay. So anyone that's an E36 enthusiast will understand right from the get-go that this car has an M50 swap done to it, which is awesome. If I were to be completely honest, I don't think this swap with this manifold is as clean as it could possibly be. I see a couple nuts and bolts, if I can really zoom in, that have just been plugged into the vacuum lines lazily. So that's something that I'll probably address in another video. Other goodies that I see in this car is that it probably has a tune done to it because it doesn't have the secondary air pump system in there. So to me, that leads me to believe that the car probably has some sort of tune on the ECU. Another thing that's probably going to catch your eye is this active auto works strut bar, because I think this strut bar is actually discontinued. Having the strut bar, I think, makes the car have its own unique flair, in my opinion, knowing that the strut bar probably isn't really circulating around these cars anymore. Now, if I were to pop the trunk, sorry, there's like a huge mess in this trunk. I kind of like moved a bunch of my tools in here. But if you guys look in the back, the car also came with an aftermarket strut bar for the rear suspension system as well. Now, I'm not gonna really peel too much back here, but one thing I wanted to talk about was in the next video, I'm probably gonna do a shock replacement, because I actually already did the replacement for this car because driving it on the road was so bumpy. Because the rear shock towers in this car were completely shot to the point where the car felt like there was a metal dumbbell in the trunk kind of bouncing around and stuff. So you guys will see in the next video me replacing the shock mounts and the shocks all together for this car. So the actual suspension system that came with this car was an H&R suspension system. I don't know which exact model it is, but I'll throw the part number in the actual description of this video below. But it's cool to know that this car came with aftermarket suspension, also came with upgraded sway bars. You can clearly see that it's aftermarket. I think they're Eibach sway bars, most likely. Oh, in addition to that, I forgot to say, this car is completely outfitted with poly bushings as well. The entire subframe in the front, rear, all the little bushings and stuff have been replaced with poly bushings, so that was really exciting to see. I think the only mounts that weren't actually changed were the actual engine mounts next to the engine. I don't know if you guys can see that there. But yeah, the factory engine mounts are still there, but the transmission mounts were solid aluminum. So I'm interested to see how much of a difference if I were to replace both of those again with maybe some solid bushings from Condor Speed Shop, which I've already done a video about with my friend Eli in another video. But that was a while ago, so maybe I'll get a second crack at it to make another video for this channel. Things that you might not obviously see right up front, aside from this like cold air intake system here, is this aluminum radiator. I think this might be a Nishimoto radiator. I am not 100% sure. I'm gonna have to take it apart and kind of check that out. But it has aftermarket coolant hoses. I think this top one's actually an OEM hose, but there's an aftermarket coolant hose right after the thermostat there. I take back what I said. It looks like this radiator is actually a CSF radiator. I can see the logo like right there. There's also an electric fan system mounted in this car that has a temperature sensor that goes right into the thermostat housing right there. So it's kind of like temperature activated. So once the coolant temperature starts getting to a certain point, this fan kicks on, and only does it when the car's idling from what I've seen. I'm gonna have to figure out actually how all this wiring works, but it seems like this is the actual modules that actually control that fan that is wired somewhere into this fuse box. Now, something interesting about this car that I don't know if you guys will agree with me on, I think this car has a big secret that I will probably never know because I don't have any form of communication with the previous owners, but I think at some point this car had a turbocharger in it, because if you are familiar with my build, you guys know why there's heat shielding in this area. I think this car might have had a top mount turbo right here, and the biggest reason why I think it might have been right here is because you look at the hood and it looks like something's been hidden right here when you shut the hood. And you guys are all too familiar with Gertrude and how I had to cut a hole right here in the hood in order to make room for the turbo, which stuck out in terms of where the hood aligns by about an inch or so. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you think this car might have had a turbocharger in the car at some point. But let's get back to the interior. So this car came with a Euro steering wheel, which is hella dope. I actually really like the design of the steering wheel. Honestly, the leather is coming apart on the top here. It looks like the one-handed driving style wore right through the steering wheel at that location. The gauges are working, fully functional. All the lights work really nicely. Aside from that, the car's got an aftermarket radio and aftermarket speakers too. And this radio has Bluetooth control to it, so I was able to hook it up to my cell phone and just stream music right through it. IRP short shifter in the car as well. To be honest, it shifts really nice. If I could be completely honest, it's still not as nice as the Acuity shifter in my Honda Civic. This shifter so far, not bad at all. It's just very crisp. There's still a decent amount of slop, and that might be the detent springs, but in gear, still a ton of slop. If you guys know from my Civic that this kind of wiggle does not exist with that Acuity shifter. Another thing I don't really like about this shifter, at least in its current state, is the need for this lockout here. A lot of BMW guys, you guys know that to go into reverse, you just have to go like that, push hard to the left and go up. But with this shifter, they have a lockout mechanism, which could be useful, but in my opinion I don't know, it's tough to say, because I think doing this is a lot more inconvenient than just knowing to just go hard in and up there. I mean, when you're racing on a track and stuff, that might change my opinion later on, but the only reason why I really don't like this lockout mechanism is how you have to notch the actual interior here. The way this engages, if I were to fully engage it, this sometimes conflicts with this button panel and pops it out. I don't know, in my opinion, like, short shifters should be designed to be a complete plug and play without needing any sort of modification in the interior. But that's just my 2 cents on the matter. So this car also came with Vader seats. I actually really like the condition so far, and I actually like that it's a manual seat. All these levers work really, really nicely. Less electronics in my mind is better. Less stuff to break. Sorry, there's a bunch of just like junk and stuff that I've been transferring between cars, but the rest of the interior is really nice. I think there are a couple spots that have been patched up here and there. And of course, because of the age, none of these panels actually are fixed really tight on the car. You can tell, just looking through the window here, that the panel is just hanging. So all these clips just become brittle and break off anyways. But the reason why this is really dangling is because I had to replace the seat belts. Previous owner with the harness and stuff just cut the seat belts, which was really lazy, because you could have just unbolted 3 bolts to remove the factory seat belt, but I'm not gonna keep complaining. The car didn't also come with a headliner, but frankly, I'd rather have no headliner than a sagging headliner. And I kind of like it without a headliner. It kind of gives it a gutted feeling. So yeah, I mean, aside from all those things, the only thing I didn't mention is the car also has an aftermarket, well, custom exhaust system on the car, which sounds a little bit too loud for my taste. It still has the caps, surprisingly, but it is, for some reason, there's something in the exhaust system that is way too loud on the road. Like, it drones a ton, and when I really kind of just get on the gas, it's a little bit too raspy for my taste. I like a little bit of rasp in these cars. There's a lot more rugged and lower tones to support the actual exhaust sound, so a little bit of tinny raspiness is actually a little bit tasteful in my opinion with these cars, but in its current state, way too loud. I'm definitely going to be ordering an aftermarket exhaust system to replace it, just to experiment a little bit. That's pretty much what I got for $9,000. I'm just grateful that the car in its overall condition is a pleasure to drive. Well, with that being said, let me know what you guys think. Did I pay too much for this car? Did I underpay for this car? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'd love to also hear your thoughts on what you guys would do to a car like this to get it ready for the track. So with that being said, guys, my name is Pawinning, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.